Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Want to perfect your walk in retirement? Well, maybe I got just what the doctor ordered, and it's called the Split-IRA concept.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist and four-time author, Tony Walker.
Welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, Tony Walker. You know, as we record today's episode on February 16th, 2022, there's more uncertainty about this world, about this economy, and yes, about retirement than I've seen in my 37 years in this business. Yet at Tony Walker Financial, that does not stop us from constantly trying to stay ahead of the financial curve in terms of our desire to help savers worry less about money. And today, what I thought I would do is spend the entire show doing something that our viewing audience tells us they love to watch, and that's me educating you on the whiteboard. Now, not just for one segment, as I normally do on this show, but rather for the entire show. And to make our time worthwhile, what I plan to do is cover in great detail one of the most unique concepts around to help savers get more use, more flexibility, and more control over their money, and it's something I call the Split-IRA concept. And more specifically, the three components in terms of the possible types of investments you might choose to place into your split IRA and how those choices will affect your desire for more use and flexibility and control of your money. Now, before we explain more about this concept for savers, let me say this. While this is the perfect tool to transfer your 401k, maybe your lump sum pension, 403b, current IRA, this concept can also be used for inheritances, the sale of a business, and yes, just savings over there languishing at the local bank. So let's start with the lead bucket of the split IRA, something I call the Charles Schwab bucket. Now, first of all, who is Charles Schwab and what is their role in the operation of Tony Walker Financial? Well, first of all, Charles Schwab is what is referred to as the custodian.
Mop, 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 all day long. Mop, 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 while I sing that song. Gonna wax that floor, gonna make it shine. Gonna take off the spray paint with turpentine.
Well, not actually that kind of custodian. But for instance, when you roll over your 401k to Tony Walker Financial, in most cases, those funds do not go directly to Tony Walker Financial, but rather to Charles Schwab, and they're what we refer to as a custodian. They're a brokerage firm. The money stays with Schwab. It does not go directly to Tony Walker Financial. So Schwab is where we, as the fiduciary, select all of our investments for your portfolio. Now, this could include bank products at Schwab, money markets, CDs. It could include bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, or what we call exchange-traded funds, and of course, stocks. Now, the reason we use Schwab as our custodian is due to the fact that of all the brokerage firms we could choose from to place your money with as the custodian, Schwab currently is the largest firm providing services to independent fiduciaries such as Tony Walker Financial. So we don't work for Schwab, we work for you. We simply utilize their platform and their technologies, which are very user-friendly for us to use and, of course, beneficial to you. So what is the benefit of placing some or all of your money within the split IRA? What I thought I would do right now is basically kind of go over to the whiteboard and talk first of all about the different phases of the split IRA, and then for the remaining period of our time, I'm going to go through three different buckets. Now, let me say this as a caveat. You may or may not put all of your money like this. We're just trying to show you an example of how flexible the split IRA concept is, and during this segment, I'm just going to talk about the Schwab bucket. So we're imagining that someone has a $300,000 401k, okay, as an example. Remember, you can put anything in here, but we're imagining a 401k. Maybe you're getting ready to retire or already retired, and you want to move that over to us, diversify it, and split it out. Well, in its simplest form, we might take $100,000 and put it in that bucket, another $100,000 in the second bucket, and as we'll see in a minute, $100,000 in the third bucket. But let's focus on Schwab. So what happens in bucket number 1 with Schwab? Why do we even use Schwab? Well, the first reason is we have to have liquidity. Now, the term liquidity means I can get access to my money anytime I want it without penalty. You see, part of the problem going on right now is there's a lot of people out here that are what I call annuity peddlers. And we're going to get to annuities in a minute, but what they're doing is they're throwing all of the money into these annuities, and then in many cases, they don't understand planning. Many of these people are not fiduciaries, pretty scary stuff, to put your life savings with somebody that doesn't even have to work in your best interest. And then also they take away the liquidity and also what I like to say, the flexibility of that money. So the Schwab bucket, we want that on the front end. That's where we could set up income for you. Had a gentleman in the other day. He said, Tony, I'm getting ready to retire. I'm going to go on my wife's insurance. She's going to still continue to work, but it's going to be like $600 extra for me to be added to her policy. And I said, well, no problem. We'll send you enough money after tax to cover the $600 a month. He goes, how are you going to do that? I said, with the Schwab bucket. And we'll do everything out of our Bowling Green offices. We take care and handle all the details. Now, the second part of the Schwab, which is pretty exciting, basically I'll have Aaron put this up full screen. We have, you could almost say through 1 through 5, we have 5 different portfolios where you can put your money through Schwab. And these are based on what we call risk scores. As it shares here on the screen, the higher the risk score, the more risk, obviously, you could be taking. Now, let me say something about Schwab. As much as we can be very, the one would be the ultra-conservative, any of these accounts with Schwab can lose value. Let me repeat that. Even our clients need to understand this sometimes. When we put money with Schwab, it can, no matter what portfolio we select out of our 5, can go down in value. So there's a trade-off. If we're wanting all this liquidity and flexibility and the access to the money without penalty, sometimes you have to understand that there is going to be a little bit of risk, or if you move way down to what we call the aggressive, there could be a lot of risk. This is why, again, if you're a saver, we generally don't put all of your money with Schwab either. We're going to show you in a minute when I come back why the annuities are so important for protecting your principal. Okay, so that's the first phase of the split IRA. When I come back, so that's the Schwab bucket, we're next going to talk about 2 different buckets you might employ, and these buckets use something called annuities. So when I return, we're going to go over bucket number 2, and it's something called an annuity that's an accumulation product. Stay tuned. Good stuff coming your way. You're watching The Worry-Free Retirement. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. In case you're just now joining us, we are explaining in detail our split IRA concept and the components that you can choose to take advantage of. Now, the last segment, we explained how the Charles Schwab brokerage side of things works. And just in case you missed it, you can watch past episodes of our shows at youtube.com, and you just type in Tony Walker Financial. That's youtube.com. Now, once you're there, you'll see all kinds of video content, and that'll explain more about Tony Walker Financial and the work we do in the field of retirement planning. So what is this second bucket after all? What are we doing? And again, in this example, if you're just now joining us, we had someone that wanted to roll over a $300,000 401k. Again, our split IRA concept will work perfect with lump sum pensions, 403bs, 401ks, existing IRAs, brokerage accounts, money in savings and inheritance, and even the sale of a business. We can do this. But in this case, we're examining a 401k. They've decided to take $100,000 and split it into these 3 buckets. Now again, another caveat, you may not do it like this. I'm just showing you how the flexibility works. So we've already talked about the Schwab bucket. What is this bucket number 2? Well, in this example, we're using an accumulation annuity, okay? Now, annuities are different. We don't get the annuities through Charles Schwab. Annuities are issued by insurance companies. Now, folks, we represent a lot of companies. I've been doing these products for years. So before we get into this, let me remind you, there's a lot of misinformation out there about annuities. I've written about as many annuities as anybody in the country. I know these products well, and more importantly, we have game plans that we've worked on for years to watch these annuities play out. So let me make this offer. It's free. Right now, go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. You're going to click on that downloads, and you want to find a guide called Annuities Made Easy. Click on that download, get that free guide. If you don't have access to the internet or not comfortable downloading things, just call the toll-free number on your screen and request the Annuities Made Easy guide. It is really helpful to you. Okay, so basically there we go. We've got this $100,000. You say, what are we going to do with that, Tony? It goes to the insurance company, and generally, not all the time, but generally we put this in what we call an indexed annuity. Now here's how this might work. We might choose an indexed annuity with a period of 5 years. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So basically, you take the $100,000, and we're going to imagine the stock market over the next 5 years does this, okay? Which it could. And the problem is, if we had this in an aggressive portfolio with Schwab and the market did this, you're going to be all over the place. You may be worried. You might be losing some sleep, especially if you had all of your money in the market, which is not wise if you're at or near retirement. But what happens with the annuity is you have these new floors that occur. So if the market goes up, your account goes up, but when the market goes down, you keep this floor. I call this sleep insurance, because what happens is we know the market's eventually going to go down. The indexed annuity protects prior gains, but here's the beauty. When the market eventually goes back up, the annuity goes back up as well. So these products, up until recently, most people in the financial world, especially Wall Street, have really dogged these products. And the reason they've dogged them is they said, well, they don't earn enough money. Just put it in bonds. That's what you need to do. Do a 60-40 split. I mean, this was so old school. We did this back, went out with Led Zeppelin, this kind of advice, and they're still giving it. The problems to just do 60-40 splits and not consider these is because bonds, while we don't have a problem with bonds, putting a lot of money in bonds will subject you to what's called interest rate risk. And right now, as we film this show in February of 2022, there's a lot of interest rate concerns and bonds. An indexed annuity will not be subject to interest rate risk. This is huge, folks, for when you're considering retirement planning. And now, as we see from this article here, here's a really, really well-known fella in the financial world representing Wall Street. And yeah, what's going on now? They're starting to see the beauty of fixed indexed annuities. So here's the thing, folks. If you don't have a fixed indexed annuity, and again, this is called an accumulation product. The other thing I like about most accumulation products, there's no fee and no risk. Think about that. So you've got $100,000 over here. Well, if you had that with a money manager charging 1.5% to 2%, you got fees, you got risk, you got all this uncertainty. Why wouldn't you want one of these buckets that has guarantees, will lock in whatever gains you make? Not guaranteed to grow, but it's not guaranteed to lose anything. And in this case, this would be a 5-year annuity. At the end of the 5-year period, you can take the whole thing out and do whatever you want to do with it. There's no penalty after 5 years on this product. Now, a lot of people might say, well, Tony, that all sounds well and good, but you know what else I heard the other day, partner? That when I die, nobody gets anything. Well, again, this is just people that don't understand annuities. That is not true at all. Now, in a minute, we'll see that there are situations where eventually, if you use enough of the annuity, there's not going to be anything left. But in this example, the full amount of the annuity, whatever you've not withdrawn, as soon as you die, will go to your beneficiaries. So that's what we call an accumulation annuity. Now, the next annuity coming up, I'm going to cover this when we come back, is probably the most controversial at all because it is the most oversold annuity out there. If you've been to any dinner seminars, they're going to be talking about this annuity. So when I return, again, not a problem. This is a good annuity if used properly, but I'm going to show you why an income annuity producing what I call mailbox money may be the ticket to helping you sleep better at night, because this annuity over here is going to guarantee you never run out of money. I'm Tony Walker. We'll be right back to cover this last bucket. You stay tuned. Who can you trust? It's one of the most important decisions you'll have to make. Question is, are you ready? Well, we're here to help at Tony Walker Financial. You know, we care more about you than we do your money, and we have over 2,000 happy clients and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau to prove it. Rolling over a 401k, confused about Social Security, maybe you're afraid of running out of money. Learn how to use and enjoy and protect your hard-earned money. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. Before we get into this particular segment and kind of close out on the split IRA and what exactly is an income annuity, or what I call mailbox money, I need to give you a caveat here. Again, folks, you may not do it exactly like this. This is why we need to meet. This is why I see literally 20 to 30 people a week. There is no one size fits all here. So again, we may or may not do exact percentages like this. I'm just showing you an example. Now, by the way, we talked about accumulation annuities, the past segment. We're getting ready to talk about income annuities. You might ask, well, Tony, do you do this same thing? Absolutely. I have a Charles Schwab account. I have several accumulation annuities, getting ready to buy another one. My wife has an income annuity. I have several. So we have a total of 11 annuities. So as John Bogle liked to say, I do eat my own cooking, folks. I am going to practice what I preach. And as a fiduciary, I'm going to do my best to recommend products that I think fit within your game plan. Okay, I hope I made that clear. All right. So what is bucket number 3 over here? And this is what we call, it's an annuity, of course, but we're calling this an income annuity. And its main purpose is my beloved mailbox money. We kidded around the other day. I had a client in, he said, yeah, somebody's using that mailbox money term, Tony. I thought that was trademark. So you advisors out there, I know you're sitting here watching this kind of stuff. You can't use mailbox money now. That's trademarked to Tony Walker Financial. So somebody says, well, what is mailbox money? Well, mailbox money is defined as income that once it starts, you can never outlive. Just like my granddad's pension. It's really like a pension. In fact, if you have a pension, if you look closely at your statement, ironically, it'll say an annuity. So when people start dogging annuities, you just say, hey, it's really like a pension, especially an income annuity product. Now, you got to understand something. Most income annuities, there's a few that don't, but most income annuities right now are paying 6 to 7% guaranteed. Now, if you're at a dinner seminar and just got through eating a juicy steak, and I'm up there talking, let's say, and I say, hey, how would you like to earn 6% on your money guaranteed? What are you going to say? Well, of course you're going to say, yeah, sign me up. Well, folks, you have to understand something. That 6 or 7% is a real return, but it's associated with what we call an income account. What I like to say is it's really not real money. It's an accounting number that eventually is going to be used to calculate your mailbox money. So there's a contract side and an income side. And again, folks, if you're just now joining us, I've got a great booklet at the TonyWalkerFinancial.com. It's called Mailbox Money for Life, and it'll explain this concept in detail. You want to download that at TonyWalkerFinancial.com, or if you like, you can just call the toll-free number on your screen and request the Mailbox Money for Life booklet. We'll be happy to mail that to you. So what is going on here? How does this thing keep growing, and how the insurance company, how in the world can they guarantee 6 to 7%? Well, let's imagine through the rule of 72, roughly in 9 years, that means that the income account will double, okay? So we know on a guaranteed basis that we're going to have, if we left that alone at 9 years based on 7% or whatever, you're going to have about $200,000. That's wonderful because you know you've got it. However, there's a contract value that's separate from the income value. And let's say that may have only grown to $130,000. So here's the confusion about death benefit. Somebody might say, okay, Tony, man, this is awesome. I've had no risk. You are going to have to pay a fee for this, quite frankly, but the fee is deducted from what would go to your kids at death. We'll call that the death benefit just to keep this simple, okay? And you say, but so what happens if I never, or my wife, we never get to draw this mailbox money out? Let's just say you die in a common accident before you ever got to touch this money. It's worth $200,000. What happens to that money? Well, in that example, that money's gone. Now let me repeat that, because a lot of you think that you can just take that huge lump sum out, and it is not for that. It's used to calculate your mailbox money. That's all it's for. So let's imagine you're in your 70s. These are called payout factors. Folks, this is important. I know you say this is complicated. Well, you better understand this before you put your life savings in these. I mean, it's worse yet. Many of you come in to see me and you've got these products. you have no clue what you've got. So you're sitting here maybe thinking this seems complicated. I'm telling you this is worth exploring. And yeah, it's complicated, but once you get it, it's really, really powerful to know that you'll never run out of money. So basically, if this person wanted to do that, okay, that'd be $10,000 a year for life. And let's just say we started an income on an annuity just yesterday. Let's say we get ready to start it and Harry and Martha are killed in a common accident. What happens? Well, first of all, they're not going to get their income because it hadn't started yet. The $200,000 is gone because that was just an accounting number. Their kids will get this, okay? So keep that in mind. Also, if they do live a long time and start drawing $10,000, that $10,000 every year that they take it out, while this still might grow some, has to be subtracted from this. So now that's where you get into this whole thing about what happens when I die. So with an income annuity, once you start your mailbox money, okay, they're going to deduct that amount from what would go to your children or your beneficiaries at death. And then whenever you die, there's a final calculation that's given. Well, a lot of people say, well, when would it actually run out of money for the kids? I always say, well, probably in about 15 years. More than likely, if you're drawing out this kind of income, whatever that income is, the money's going to run out to the kids, which is the beauty of the annuity. So listen here, this is important. So let's say one day that goes to zero. If that were in a stock brokerage account, if that were at the bank and you're taking out that kind of money and it goes down to zero, what's going to happen? They're going to call you and say, no more income. We can't pay any more income because the account's at zero. With an annuity, remember, why are you transferring this to the insurance company? Because protection, right? They're protecting you from running out of money. So what the insurance company can do, because they're set up to do this, even though theoretically you're out of money, okay, even though the account goes to zero, they still have to pay, in this example, that $10,000 for as long as you live, and if you want to set it up, for as long as your spouse lives. So folks, I don't know about you, but if you're a saver and you're more concerned about the return of your money than on it, and you're worried about running out of money, why would you not at least consider this? Why would you not consider an accumulation annuity? And finally, if you want the flexibility and the low fees that we offer through Charles Schwab at Tony Walker Financial, why don't you let us share with you, for your specific situation, how the Split-IRA works. So if we can be of any help and you want to get started with this, there's no cost or obligation to go through an analysis and a free assessment. Just go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com and click on that Let's Get Started button. Or if you like, you can simply call the toll-free number on your screen and I'll be happy to meet with you in person at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. So what does the Bible have to say about perfecting your walk? Believe it or not, quite a bit. In fact, I need to get a cup of coffee for this one. I'll be right back. Warning. A licensed insurance agent with no prior knowledge of annuities can legally toss your 401k into an annuity. Don't get stuck in the wrong annuity. Get a second opinion from TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Over 20 years ago, I began working on my first book called Perfecting Your Walk in Retirement. Due to the confusion the book's title invoked, I decided to change the title of it to The Worry-Free Retirement. Yet, to this day, I love the concept of perfecting your walk because while the Bible certainly talks a lot about our sinful state of affairs and all of the imperfections, warts and all, surprisingly, it also speaks volumes to the perfection we will one day experience in Christ and this idea of one day being made perfect. One example of God's amazing perfecting grace is found in Colossians 1:28, where the Apostle Paul says, "We proclaim him," that's Christ by the way, "admonishing and teaching everyone with all wisdom so that we may present everyone," here's the key word, "perfect in Christ." It's what Paul meant where in 1 Corinthians 15:51 and 52, he reminds us of being changed from corruptible to incorruptible. This notion that one day, due to our walk with the Lord and our faith in the finished work at the cross, we shall one day be made perfect as well. This is why, in my humble opinion, Paul spent most of his waking hours preaching about the life-changing gospel of Jesus Christ and the perfection that awaits those who place their trust and confidence in him. This vision of one day being perfect in the eyes of God is described by Paul this way in 1 Corinthians 13:12, where he says, "For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I shall know fully, just as I have also been fully known." In other words, now when we look into our spiritual mirrors, we might see only a poor sinful image of oneself staring back into the cloudy and dirty mirror. But the good news is that one day, and sooner than we might think, we shall look into this same mirror and no longer see a fuzzy picture of what could have been, but rather we shall see a perfect and clear picture of what always has been. A God who has always loved us perfectly, proving once and for all that His love for us is the greatest perfecter of them all. So now, armed with this perfecting faith and hope in the power of Christ, what are we to do in our remaining time here on planet Earth as we stumble and bumble our way to perfection? Well, let's finish what we started in Colossians as we go to the next verse, 1:29, where Paul says, "To this end I also labor, striving according to His power which mightily works within me." And it's a wonderful perfecting your walk reaction to a wonderful truth. Wouldn't you agree? The more you know where you're going, the more confident you are in being able to get there. And isn't that what this walk is really all about? Not what others might think of you and I, but rather because of our actions and our work in serving others, what others might think of God. It's why I close out this show each and every week with what the Bible has to say about money. Not because I hope and pray you'll see some sort of perfection in a little man in a sweater vest, because you won't, but rather through my words, you might see in Him the perfection that has always existed and is awaiting you to be revealed one day sooner than you think. Amen? Well, what about you? When you look into your financial mirror, what do you see? Do you see a clear picture of where you are and how your investments are managed? Do you see exactly what the financial world is charging you to handle your money? Do you have a written game plan that allows you to see how and when to enjoy this money that you've worked so hard to save? Do you have things in writing so your loved ones can see how quickly they'll be able to settle your affairs after you're dead and gone? And more importantly, do you get to see in person the owner of the company, someone you can sit down with and explain what you have and how best to use and enjoy this money before it's too late? Someone with over 37 years of experience in meeting with more than 15,000 savers. And add to that a local firm that includes 3 salaried fiduciaries to assist you and a team of 10 local retirement planning service professionals who are there to serve you. Well, if not, why not? My name is Tony Walker, and I would consider it a privilege to talk to you in person, and you can do so one of 2 ways. Either first, by logging on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, that's TonyWalkerFinancial.com, and clicking on that Let's Get Started button. Or if you like, you can simply call the toll-free number on your screen. Well, we hope you've enjoyed this presentation today of the Split-IRA concept, but you remember, between now and next week when we see each other again, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.